Alright, this is Brian O. I'm going to show you how to set up the LED processor to work with any LED configuration that you have going on. Okay, so right now I have the processor as well as the laptop. Let me show you the connections. Okay, you'll notice that there's a USB plugged into the computer that allows it to communicate. The USB kind of goes into the sending card right here. These connections don't have to change, but I'll just show you anyway. This is your input, so there's an HDMI on this end, and then it goes into the inputs and DVI input here. And then you'll see that there's another cable. It goes from the outputs, it's the DVI output, and it goes into the sending card. So this is kind of like the scaler. You can have lots of inputs and it scales it correctly. And this is the sending card, which is more specific to different panels. So you could use this scaler with many different panels. You would just have to install a different sending card. This right here, this Ethernet with a blinking light, you always plug it into the one next to the blinking light. Notice I have the other one taped. That's what goes straight to your panels, Ethernet or Ethercon, which is like a protected Ethernet. Okay, so we got the USB hooked up, laptop turned on, and I'll show you how to get started here. So first thing we're going to do is go to Smart LCT. Open that up. Yes, that's okay. Smart LCT splash screen. Okay. What we'll do, notice that it says device list COM MCTRL300. That's a good thing. That's the name of the sending card. So we want that. You want a device to pop up here. You have to make sure that it's plugged in before you start it up, otherwise it doesn't quite work. Create online design. Go ahead and just call it project, and it says it already exists. That's fine. I kind of tend to just redo this every time because it doesn't take very long. Okay, so how do we get going here? This is what you start off with. Up here at the top left, you'll see a button that says batch add. Okay, now what you're going to do is make sure it's P5. That's kind of the resolution. Notice 104 by 104. That's each panel has 104 pixels by 104. Let's say that we're going to have a wall that's 5 columns across and 3 rows down. Okay, so I would click those settings. So a 5 by 3. That's a standard smaller setup that we use. Notice I click here, and there we go. It populates. Oops. There we go. It populates it. So it gives me a default kind of thing. I don't really love that wiring arrangement, so I'm gonna go up here and you'll see it says disconnect, and they're all disconnected. You can click and drag one by one if you kind of wish to do it that way, but instead of doing that, I'm also gonna hit disconnect again. Let's see. What did highlight? What I like to use is some of these kind of quick presets. I tend to start at the bottom left corner or the bottom right corner, kind of snake up. So I'll select these. This one looks like it'll work. There we go. I find that kind of zigzag works a little better. That way you don't have to have longer runs. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to hit send. And that's going to send it to the hardware. And then you can check to see if it looks good. And if it does look good, you're like, okay, save it. Save it to the hardware. And also save it button's right there, but when you hit send, it'll kind of already prompt you to hit that next one. Okay, save successfully. So we don't have a wall to see, but if you plug it in correctly, I believe this is from the front. So if you're looking at the front, you want to plug it in the bottom right. But if you're at the back, you'll look at the bottom left. All right, the other thing you have to do is set the proper scaling. So what you often see is this is it. Well, I don't have an input, so it says no input. And notice it says output size, 936 by 520. That's not really what we're doing right now. Ours is not quite that large. So we're gonna go to setup, go to output image, and we're going to adjust the output width. We know it's 5 panels wide, and each panel is 104 pixels, so 5 times 104 is 520. I know that because I've done this a bunch, so I kind of remembered some of these numbers from different arrangements. So I can move the encoder, dial it till it says about 520, And then in order to enable it, you push the encoder in. Push. Okay, now see it's set to 520. All right, so we're doing 3 rows. So this is going to be 3 times 104, so that's 312. All right. Okay. Notice it shows you the new value, and then I push the button and it changes. So 520 by 312, we have our computer flash. We're pretty much ready to wire up our wall and good to go. All right, thanks a bunch.